All right, NorCal Carters, this is Jason Berry, and tonight we have two guests from the NCK Road Racing Group. We have Joe Hollinger and Erik Maxfield. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joe. I mean, a lot of people karting hopefully know me. I've been karting for 20 years. Initially sprint, now road racing. I think that's me.
That's you. Erik, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Erik Maxfield. I've been karting since 2001 in a combination of sprint and road race over the years. Lately, my focus has been road racing. I continue to support my kids in sprint racing.
And for the sprint racing stuff, what class does Ian run?
Ian's my son. He runs in LO206 Junior, and he's actually going to the next. He's moving up to a full-size kart chassis next year, which is kind of nice. Because then hopefully I could share some spares between his junk and my junk then.
There you go. And how about Lucy? What class does she run?
Well, she's got a kid kart, but she's a little spooked by it. So she goes out, she drives around in circles, and when her brother or I get close to her, she tries to show either one of us the dirt, which is pretty funny because we outweigh her. But she's got a little kid cart with a Comer on it.
Okay. And so the reason I have Joe and Erik on tonight is this Saturday, June 29th, NCK has a road race at the Thunderhill West Track, and they have a introduction to road racing for $50. And the basic premise of the introduction to road racing is to help bring up mainly the sprint guys that already own karts that are safe to be on the track up to speed of the road racing speeds. So either Joe or Erik, at the Thunderhill West Track, both of you run the Honda CR125 package on a sprint chassis. What type of top speeds are we looking at?
You want to field that, Joe, or you want me to field that?
You know, I've never looked. I would think it's probably between 80 and 90.
I think if you've got coming down the back straight going into turn 6 on West, if you've got a decent drafting partner and you do everything just so, I'm actually dragging out my notes for that track. At most, maybe somewhere between 93 and 97 miles an hour.
Okay, so you're not quite breaking 100 miles an hour on that side of the track.
No,
or on the other side.
Yeah, actually it's funny. The fastest part of the track is on the back side, which is down to turn 6. So it's after turn 3 down to turn 6 is where you build the most speed on the front straight. You don't get going quite as fast. So if you chase the gearing there, you'll be off on the opposite side.
Got it. And then what is a good, for those Honda guys, what would be a good starting gear for the West Track?
If I were... Yep.
What is it?
1722 or a 1.294.
So 1722. So those of you that have a Honda and you're thinking about coming out to Thunderhill West, throw a 1722 on it and forget about it. Just drive it. And with the road racers, you guys have open tire, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's
MGs, whatever you want to run.
Dunlops.
There's people who are running on used tires. There's people on new tires. most sprint people think that, oh my God, if I throw soft tires on there, I'm going to go like stink. And most everyone at most is running CIK medium tires because CIK based soft tires, they're too soft. It's like putting soft tires on the 206. It actually slows you down.
Okay.
Too much grip and too much drag. And the tires don't last worth a darn.
Got it. And so for some of those guys that are out there listening to this podcast, and go, oh, I can't make it to the race because I don't have the right tire. Because in sprint racing, it seems like no matter what track you go to, that track is just running a different tire than what's already in your trailer. So the road racers,
Sure.
it's open tire for these guys. So it doesn't matter. MG Yellow, Evenco, Bridgestone, Dunlop, Hoosiers, Vegas.
Yeah,
who cares? Bring them out.
Yeah,
LeConte?
and people run. Yeah, people run competitively with all of those tires too. So it's not like you're going to run out, show up with something and get be way slower than anybody else because all those tires are basically competitive.
Oh, okay. So if you went through the top five guys and looked at their carts, there's not one dominant tire.
That's true.
Top five, there's at least a set of LeContes, a set of Hoosiers, and MGs at least, right?
Yep.
And frequently there's Bridgestones up there, so, take your pick.
Okay.
I've even run Vega Whites up there, and it's just tuning the chassis to the rubber that you have.
Okay. So both of you have a background in sprint racing. So if you were to give these sprint guys some advice with their Hondas, just generically speaking, I don't need the jetting to be on kill, but if someone's running a Dixon or Sonoma and they have the jetting dialed in for those tracks, what would they have to do differently to their jetting to go road racing?
So assuming that they're running 110 octane or so, which would be like VPC12, right?
Yep.
And I tend to run more oil than most sprint guys. Most of the sprint guys are running like 4 ounces to a gallon, and I'm running somewhere around 7. And the only reason why I say that is because more oil you run, the bigger the main jet you need to run to make up for the lack of combustible stuff that you're passing through that main jet into the cylinder, right?
Okay.
But if you showed up with a 180, 182 maybe, you would be close enough to run and probably on kill in the 170-ish range.
And then, so without doing specific jets, what would you run at Dixon? And what would you run at Thunderhill West? Like, what is the point difference? 5 points, 10 points?
So not looking at jet sizes, just numbers. If you ran a 170 at Dixon, you'd probably be at a 180 at Thunderhill, right? So add 10 numbers.
Add 10 points to your sprint jet.
Yeah, between 2 and 3 jet sizes would be a good place to start.
All right, that's a good reference. Joe, is there anything you want to add?
The other thing, just guessing from what the weather has been like recently, like if you start with a 178, you're probably gonna be fine.
Okay. And since both of you, again, come from sprint and have a sprint experience, how can you explain the draft to people?
You want to take that, Joe?
I'm not sure what there is to explain about it, except that obviously it's a big factor, right? Getting in and tucking in behind somebody has a huge impact on your lap times, which is why it's pretty much always the case that the guy who leads the most laps in a road race does not get the fastest laps. And this track, I would have to say that I think that drafting is slightly less important here than it would be someplace like the big track at Thunderhill where you literally you live or die in the draft. This is on the spectrum of road racing tracks. This one is more on the sprint track end of the spectrum.
Okay.
There's a lot of corner, and I think that kind of takes at least some importance out of the drafting situation.
Okay. So for those of you that want to know what Thunderhill looks like, you can go to nckroadracing.com, and I'll post a link in this podcast, and I'll also post a link on norcalcarters.com. But if you click on tracks and click on Thunderhill, the NCK website has pictures of both the east track and the west track. And for this weekend, we are running on the west track. Joe, do you know if they're running the bypass or not running the bypass?
My impression is that they are not running the bypass, so it's the longer version of the track.
Okay, so instead of coming onto the straightaway, you would basically make a hairpin turn back into the infield?
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then that would slow the speeds down on the straightaway as well, correct?
It has a huge impact, and it completely changes the front straight in terms of it being like a passing zone. When we run the bypass, that front straight becomes super easy place to pass.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add that a sprinter might find helpful, or even just a new guy? If you're a new guy, if you show up, make sure your cart is safe to hit the track. If you have any questions about it, then maybe you need to take your cart to a local shop first and have it inspected or looked over before you just show up and try road racing. But is there anything you guys want to add to help bring some guys?
I have something. I think the thing that people really overlook is that the karting on a road course is really super similar to karting on a sprint track, and so people kind of look at what do I have to change, and for the most part, not much. The classes that we run are basically the same as the classes that you would run on a sprint track. There aren't major differences. The gearing is obviously different, but you can show up with just different gears and run a road race.
And that's very good.
I'd absolutely back that up, because the amount of tow that I run sprint racing is very similar to the amount of tow that I run road racing. I mean, I'd show up with either of them. I'd say that probably the primary difference is the jetting's a little bit richer road racing, and that's primarily because you're pinning the throttle open for a longer period of time. And obviously we have open tires, so you can run whatever the heck you want to run. And as long as you can tune around whatever you choose to bring with you, you're fine. If you're happy with MGs, great, show up with MGs. If you're happy with Bridgestones and you run a rock or something like that, great, bring those. As long as you've got data that you're starting from, you'll be fine.
Okay.
The only other thing that I'd say that's a little different than sprint racing is on a road racing track, you've got 30 foot of track frequently. I mean, cars are out there running and they're, 2 wide in a lot of spots, sometimes 3 wide in a couple of spots, right? So you don't have to drive down in front of someone as much and throw out the anchor in order to take their apex from you. And frequently you'll see where sprint racers come in with that mentality, and frequently they get dropped pretty quickly by the road racers once they figure out what's going on. because if you burn up all your energy at the apex, braking late and